Hey everyone, ready to dive in? Today we're tackling the world of translation. And let me tell you, it's way more than just being bilingual. We've got a treasure trove of info from RoleCatcher.com for this deep dive. They're all about helping you navigate your career, so consider them your co-pilots today. Ready to decode what it really takes to be a translator. Let's roll.
It's funny because when you think about translation, it's not just about the words, right? It's about bridging cultures, which is a whole other challenge.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was struck by that in the RoleCatcher guide. They mentioned translators work on everything, website copy, contracts, even movie subtitles. The variety just blew me away.
Right. And that's where the real skill comes in. You're not just translating words, you're translating meaning, tone, even humor, and all while making sure it clicks with a completely different cultural background.
Give us an example from the material, something that really highlights that challenge.
Okay, imagine you're translating a marketing campaign for a new clothing brand, right? The tagline in English is, "Dress to impress."
Simple enough. Gets the point across.
But in another language, that could easily come off too strong, or even shallow. You might need to find a phrase that's more about elegance or individuality. It all depends on the cultural context.
It's like being a cultural chameleon. You have to adapt the message so it blends right into a new environment.
Nailed it. It's about those subtle nuances of language and culture. You want to make sure the message really lands with the same impact across the board.
So we're talking fluency, sure, but also a deep understanding of how language functions within a culture.
That's fascinating. Okay, so translation is more nuanced than it seems, that's for sure. But what about the day-to-day? What's the work environment really like?
Well, RoleCatcher really emphasized the flexibility, which is a huge plus for a lot of people. We're talking offices, home offices, maybe even working from a beach somewhere. It's all over the map.
The digital nomad dream. Working from anywhere, setting your own hours, it's definitely tempting. It can be incredibly freeing. But, gotta be real, there's two sides to every coin. The RoleCatcher guide also mentions some potential downsides, like eye strain from staring at a computer all day, distractions if you're working remotely, and of course the pressure of deadlines without the structure of a traditional job.
That's a really good point. It takes a certain kind of person to thrive in that environment. You need to be incredibly disciplined, self-motivated, for sure. Now, the guide also dug into some industry trends. One thing that jumped out at me was the growing demand for translators, which seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
In our tech-driven world, you'd think.
I know, right? You'd think it'd be the opposite.
But it makes sense when you think about it, I guess.
Absolutely. Think about it as businesses become more globalized. The need for clear, culturally sensitive communication, it only becomes more important. And that's where skilled translators come in. They're the bridge between languages and cultures, making sure nothing gets lost in translation, literally.
So globalization is actually fueling the demand for translators, not diminishing it. That's a fascinating takeaway for sure. And it's not just about businesses either, right? We're talking international diplomacy, arts, entertainment, you name it.
Exactly. It's a truly global profession. And speaking of global, we can't forget about technology's role in all of this.
Right. The guide mentioned something called CTAT tools, which stands for Computer-Assisted Translation. Honestly, at first I thought, oh no, is AI coming for translators' jobs? But it's actually much more interesting than that.
Yeah, it's not about replacing translators at all. It's more like giving them superpowers.
Okay, I like that.
CTALs are like high-powered tools specifically designed for language professionals. They can help with all sorts of things, like making sure the same terms are used consistently across large documents, or managing huge databases of terminology. Some of them even suggest translations based on your previous work, which is wild.
So it's like having a supercharged dictionary and grammar checker all in one.
Exactly. Imagine you're working on a massive technical manual, for example. A seat tool can make sure that the same technical term is translated consistently, even if it pops up hundreds of times. That kind of precision would be incredibly difficult to achieve manually.
It's like the difference between building a house with hand tools versus power tools, right? You're still the builder, but the tools just help you work way more efficiently.
Perfect analogy. And just like with any tool, the more skilled you are at using it, the better your results are going to be. That's why RoleCatcher really emphasized the importance of translators being good with seat tools. It's not just a bonus skill anymore, it's becoming essential.
So I've got globalization driving demand and technology changing how the work gets done. Sounds like an exciting time to be a translator, but probably competitive too. What are some of the pros and cons someone should really think about before jumping in?
Well, on the plus side, there's that variety we talked about. One day you could be working on literary translations, the next day it's technical documents. You could even end up subtitling a film after that. Who knows?
Talk about keeping things interesting. Definitely not your typical 9 to 5.
Right. And that ties into another big prude, the potential for flexibility. Freelance work is really common in this field, so you might have the freedom to set your own hours, work from anywhere, maybe even choose projects that you're really passionate about.
Okay, that all sounds amazing. But let's be real, there have to be some downsides too. What are some of the things they don't always put in those glossy brochures?
Well, you got to be ready for the competition. It can be tough. It's a global market now, so you're not just competing with people in your city. You're up against translators from all over the world.
That makes sense. The talent pool is huge.
Exactly. So you really have to be on top of your game. Being bilingual isn't enough.
Yeah.
You need to be an exceptional writer in both languages. You need to have a deep understanding of whatever subject matter you're translating. And you can't forget about mastering all that technology we talked about.
So it's a constant process of learning and evolving. You can't just coast.
Exactly. And that kind of ties into another potential downside, which is work-life balance. Freelancing can be amazing, don't get me wrong, but it also means you're always on, in a way. It can be tough to set boundaries to separate work life from personal life, especially when you're dealing with clients in different time zones.
That's a really good point. A career isn't just about the work itself. It's about how it fits into your life as a whole. So let's say someone's listening to this thinking, okay, translation is totally for me. How do I make it happen? What are the concrete steps they can take to turn that dream into a reality?
Well, RoleCatcher breaks it down into a few key stages. First, there's the education and training phase. Now, there isn't always a specific degree required for translation, but most professional translators have at least a bachelor's degree, usually in a related field like linguistics, language studies, or translation itself.
So a strong foundation in language is key.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a super specialized degree.
Got it. Exactly. But it's not all about formal education either. Experience is huge in this field. That's why things like internships, volunteer work, even personal translation projects can be so valuable. They all help build your portfolio and show off your skills.
Yeah. It's like any creative field. Really, you need to have some work to show people what you're capable of.
Exactly. And as you get more experience and build that portfolio, you can start to specialize. This is where you really niche down and become an expert in a specific type of translation, like legal, medical, technical, literary, anything, really.
It makes sense to play to your strengths. The more specialized you are, the more valuable you become.
Exactly. And that's where things get really exciting. You're not just translating anymore. You're a trusted advisor in your field. You're the go-to person for clients who need someone who really understands the nuances of their industry and who can deliver translations that are not only accurate, but also culturally sensitive.
So you're not just translating words, you're translating success for your clients.
That's a great way to put it. And that's the beauty of this profession, really. It's not just about language. It's about communication, culture, connection, the whole package.
Speaking of connection, the RoleCatcher Guide also mentioned networking. They made it seem like that can make a big difference in the translation world.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just what you know, it's who you know, right? Joining professional organizations like the American Translators Association or attending industry conferences. Those can be amazing ways to meet people, learn from more experienced translators, and yeah, even find new job opportunities.
So it's about putting yourself out there, making those connections, becoming part of the community.
Exactly, and that's something people often overlook. Translation can be a solitary profession at times, but it's important to remember you're not alone. There's a whole community of people who are passionate about language and communication, just like you. And they can be an amazing source of support, inspiration, and even job leads, like you said.
That's a good reminder. We often focus so much on the technical skills, but those human elements, the connections we make, they're just as important for a fulfilling career. Okay, so we've talked about skills, specialization, networking, but there's one more crucial aspect we haven't touched on yet: how to actually stand out in the job market. With so much competition, how can aspiring translators make sure their application rises to the top?
Well, remember those CCAT tools we talked about earlier? This is where they really come in handy. In today's job market, it's not enough to just say you're proficient in Microsoft Word on your resume. You need to highlight your skills with specific CTAT tools, things like SDL Trados Studio, MemaQ, or WordFast, that kind of thing.
So it's about speaking the language of the industry literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
You have to show them you're tech savvy and up to date with all the latest tools.
Right, you've got to speak their language. And not just list the tools either, it's about showing how you've actually used them in real projects. Like, did you improve translation consistency by a certain percentage using a specific tool? Or maybe you streamlined a workflow with a certain CCAT tool feature. Those are the details that'll make your application stand out from the crowd.
Show, don't tell, as they say. Got to prove those skills.
Exactly. And on top of the tech stuff, RoleCatcher really emphasized another thing: specialization. It's awesome to be bilingual, no doubt. But are you an expert in, say, medical translations? Can you handle all the crazy legal jargon? Or maybe you've got a knack for capturing the essence of marketing materials. Finding your niche can make you seriously sought after.
It makes sense. Clients are going to want an expert in their field.
Yeah.
Someone with a proven track record, not just someone who's good with languages.
Exactly. And that specialization can open doors to way more interesting projects. And let's be real, probably higher paying ones too. You're not just translating words at that point, you're providing real insights, sharing your expertise because you have that deep understanding of the field.
So almost like being a consultant as much as a translator, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher also talked about having a good online presence. We haven't touched on that yet, but it seems crucial these days.
Oh, it's essential. Think of it like your digital storefront, that first impression potential clients get.
Yeah.
And you want to make it count, right? A professional website, maybe showcasing your skills, what you specialize in, some testimonials, that can make all the difference.
It's like having a digital portfolio that's always working for you, 24/7. What else did RoleCatcher have to say about building that online presence?
They were big on social media. I know, it can be a lot sometimes, but it can be a really powerful tool for translators. Sharing interesting articles, engaging in discussions in your field, even just posting about your love for languages. It all helps you connect with people, build a reputation.
So you're not just a name on a screen, you're part of the conversation. And it's a way to show your personality, your passion, which can be just as important as those technical skills.
Absolutely. Remember, people like working with people they connect with, so don't be afraid to let your personality shine through online.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
I love that. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today, from the unexpected twists and turns of the translation world to the role of technology and even personal branding. If you had to leave our listeners with one final thought, one golden nugget of wisdom, what would it be?
I think it comes down to this. Remember why you were drawn to translation in the first place. Was it a love for languages, that thrill of bridging cultures? Or maybe that desire to make information accessible to more people? Whatever it was, hold on to that. Let it fuel you. Because in the end, translation is about more than just words. It's about connecting people and ideas, and that's a really powerful thing to be a part of.
What a beautiful way to put it. It's not just a job, it's a calling. Well, I'm feeling super inspired. I don't know about you. If any of you out there are ready to explore the world of translation, check out RoleCatcher.com. They have amazing resources, guides, tools, even AI-powered insights. They've thought of everything. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of translation. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those career dreams alive.